So let me check my screen is visible or not. So my screen is visible to you or not? दिख रही है ना? हेलो. Yeah. So
Yes, sir. Degree, sir. Degree, sir.
okay, fine. Okay, fine. So we'll start this domain analysis. So this is our third unit. So in this third unit, we'll start with our domain analysis. So what are this domain analysis? Usually this domain analysis is the next stage of our development, and usually it is concerned with the devising precise and concise and understandable and as well as a correct model for mapping a real world. Now, before building anything that is being complex like a software architecture, so the first thing is to identify what are the requirements. So usually our requirements are stated in the words or in natural language, and this natural language are usually supposed to be imprecise and ambiguous. So what we'll like to do is that we'll go for analysis, we build our models and begin to understand what are the different requirements that are exist and how deep these requirements are available for us. Now, to build our domain model, we will first interview our business experts, then we'll examine different requirement and their requirement statement, and usually scrutinize different artifact available. So this is the main task that we'll cover in our domain analysis. So we'll start with this analysis. So look at this figure that is being available. So this figure shows like your analysis begins with a problem statement that is being available, and so with our problem statement, so this problem statement is usually incomplete or informal, and while during analysis we have to make more precise and we have to identify different ambiguities and inconsistency that are being available in our problem statement. So we cannot say that our statement is immutable. So we have to convert all those things and we have to refine our real requirements. So right from this problem statement, we have to understand the real world system that are being described in our problem statement, and we have to find out some abstract features that are being used to model our information system. So in general cases, these statements are in natural language and ambiguous and incomplete and inconsistent. So while modeling this, we have to analyze all those requirements that could be model. So it must be precise, concise representation of our problems. So what we are trying to do is that uh, we are moving from unambiguous and incompleteness to your preciseness and conciseness. So usually while we are going from this analysis model, so our analysis model usually addresses three aspects of our object, that is an static structure of our object, then that is an class model, then we have to model some interaction objects, so we will go for interaction model. So we covered all those interaction model, and the life cycle histories of our objects, that is our static models. So हमने ये will cover all these three models in the previous chapter. So all these three sub models are, we cannot say that are there that are equally important for every problem, but they have different roles for each specific problems. So, well, going from this diagram, so first is that you are having some users, developers, managers. So all these managers uh, sit together and identify what are the different requirements. So they'll generate different requirements that are being available. So finally, what we are trying to do is that uh, we'll have some domain experts available, users, developers, so they'll read all those requirements, and on the basis of all those requirements, what we're trying to do is that we'll generate some problem statements. So these statements are usually what we can say that right from modeling your uh, ambiguous requirements. So we'll try to convert this all those imprecise and inconsistent into some precise format. So we'll write all those problem statements. Now, when we are having these problem statements that are being available, what we're trying to do is that we like to build our models. So we are having different types of model being available. That is class model, state model, interaction model, and so on. So usually we like to identify all those nouns and verbs. So while drawing some domain models, firstly we identify different nouns, and then we'll go for use case diagram, and then uh, robustness diagram, then sequence diagram, then class diagram, and then finally uh, stable class diagram. So while building our model, what we'll carry out is that we'll like to have some user interviews, and then we'll apply some domain knowledge. For an example, let's say we are building an application for banking. So we have to know what are the different processes that are being carried out while executing an bank information system, or what are the different procedures or different uh, uh, flow of information usually exist in your real world banking. Like I have to create an check, or we have to develop an dd. So first your cashier will receive some info amount, then this amount is been verified by your higher authorities, let's say the first man or the second man of your bank. Then he'll uh, verify all those amount, and then he'll forward to your user, then user can print out all those information. So a domain knowledge is being really important while implementing all those things. Like when we are developing our university uh, ERP, so we are having different processes. Like when you are applying for an leave, or when you are applying for examination form, so what is the different processes that are being available. So a domain expert is being needed, so he can map that inform that you had submitted your form, then different faculties forwarded your form. So all what are the different criteria for forwarding the form that are being available. Then this is forwarded to your head, then head forwarded to your uh, head of institute, and then finally it will be appear on your side, or it will be appear on the examination section. So different procedure we have to identify. So a domain expert is being required. Then we'll require real world experiences, and we have to gain some knowledge right from some legacy system, or the related system, or the existing system. So we'll gather all those information right from real world experiences and related systems. So these are some background information, or some related systems or that are being used. So we'll combine a user view, then our domain expert view, and then existing system view. So that can be help to build our model. And then finally we are having three different models are being available, that are class model, state model, and interaction model. So this is our phase of analysis. So in case of analysis, what we are trying to do is that we are going from domain analysis, and then we'll go for application analysis. So we'll take first this is a domain analysis. So in this chapter we'll cover this domain analysis, and then we'll cover all those application analysis in the unit number 4 of our syllabus. So right from creating all those domain analysis, first we have to model this uh, class model available. So before modeling a class model, what we have to do is that we have to create some domain class model that are being initialized in the early phases. So I had started to identify all those domain class model right from your first phase. So we had started our domain class modeling right from first phase. So let us take a literature over there. So we had already implemented all those domain models in our classes. Now, what is the domain class that is being available? So usually this domain class model is the first step in analyzing our requirements that is used to construct our domain model. So this domain model shows your static structure of your real world system, and it organizes the real world into a uh, workable piece of your system. So when domain model is used, it describes the real world classes as well as their relationship with each other. So what we are trying to do is that we have to identify all those nouns that are being available. So during our analysis, the class model usually precedes with the state and the interaction model, because uh, the static structure usually tends to better define. So what we're trying to do is that we'll proceed this class model with the state model and the interaction model. So when we are doing so our motto is that our static structure tends to be the better defined, and it should be less dependent on the application details, and it usually more stable as well as your evolutionary process goes on. So when we are finding this classes and association while modeling all those in our domain class model, we have to provide overall structure and different approaches that are used to find a solution for a particular problem, that is for developing an information system. So in addition to that, we have to add different attributes that are used to describe our basic structure of our classes as well as the association between different classes. Then uh, we have to combine and organizing all these classes using inheritance. So in first level, what we'll try to do is that we'll find association, and then we'll go for inheritance and the aggregation, the relationship in between different classes. So what is the best idea is that we have to uh, organize all those information. We'll not focus on the too much entities, but we have to organize, or we have to get some abstract view, and this abstract view may be redundant, may be inconsistent, but uh, important thing is that we don't have to lose any important details while gathering all those information right from your problem statement to your analysis phase. So either you can have some inconsistency, or you can have uh, redundant information, but idea is that we don't want to lose any information. So we are having some different steps to construct our domain class model that are being available. So this first step might be, so these are our first step. So our first steps for constructing our domain model is we have to identify, or we have to find different classes that are being available. So while considering this uh, finding classes, so this is our first step in constructing our class model or a domain class model. So we have to find the more relevant classes for the objects for a particular application domain. So these are different classes. So we are having uh, requirement sources available, then we'll go for extracting nouns, and then these are supposed to be different tentative classes that are being available, and then we'll eliminate superior classes. So we'll focus on the abstract view, and we'll focus on what instead of why and how. So we'll have some different classes, and this activity is being carried out by yourself on in your first practical. So let's say we are developing an application for a banking system, so we'll identify different nouns. So this is software, banking, cashier, ATM, consortium, and all those things are uh, usually are supposed to be different classes. So while identifying all those classes, we have to focus on objects. So these objects may include your physical entities, like you are having some houses, person, machine, as well as different classes, like we are having some trajectories, or we can have some sitting assignments, or we can have some payment schedules that are being available. So these classes must make at least some sense when developing uh, our information system, or when we are focusing on this application domain. So let's say when we are going from this uh, banking system, so we have to identify some relevant classes instead of that we can model some student class that is being available, but this student is not relevant in case of your uh, particularly banking system. So we cannot model, or we have to neglect or reject, let's say, student class or the faculty class in this scenario, because this is out of our domain, while student or faculty are usually users of your system. So this is much more abstract and the clear view for your users. So we have to identify some relevant classes. Look, so when we are having, let's say, uh, We'll start our process by listing the candidate classes that are being available. So these candidate classes are usually uh, written in our requirement specification or your problem statement that are being available. So when while we are listing all those candidate classes, we should not be too selective. So we have to write down every class that comes in our mind, or we can say that we have to find out the nouns that are being available. So usually these classes often corresponds to classes. Let's say, for an example, let's say we are having some statement like mm, let's say an example of the reservation system. So for a reservation system, we have to sell some tickets and uh, so while reservation system like let's say for your railways, or we can go for some theater, let's consider for the theater. So a reservation system should sell tickets uh, for different multiplexes available. So what are the tentative classes is that we have some reservation, then we are having some system that is being available, then we are having some reservation system, then again we have to sell ticket. So again ticket is again an noun, then multiplexes, again this is a noun. So in this way we can identify different nouns that are being available. Again, when we are going to find out nouns, we don't have to operate blindly. So our idea is, basic idea is to capture the concepts, है ना? Then we don't say that all nouns reflects your overall all the concepts, or let's say some concepts are being expressed in other forms. Let's say this may be described in your verb form or the adjective form. So we have to uh, focus on some tentative classes. So our basic idea is to focus on noun and all those nouns, and instead, and when we are going for all those nouns, we cannot say that all nouns reflects our overall system. So we can consider all other parts of the speech as well as. So let's say consider an example for your ATM system. So this is ATM or the banking system that is being available. So we have some different classes that are being available. So this is how we can identify different classes. Let's say we are having some software, we are having some banking network, eShare, ATM, consortium, bank, and so on. So this is how we can identify different classes for your domain. Then the next step is next step is to identify or keeping the right classes in our model, and we have to remove the bad classes. So look at this figure. We are having some different classes that are being available. So we have to identify the classes, then we have to identify what are the more relevant classes, and we have to remove the unrelevant classes, or we can say that we can have some redundant classes, irrelevant classes, some vague classes, and so on. So consider this example. So this is an dash line available. So above this dash line we are having some bad classes, and below this line we are having some good classes. So what are these bad classes, or what are the criteria for keeping this right classes, is that we have to identify redundant classes. Usually what are these redundant classes? Let's say if we are having two classes that express some same concepts. So what we can do, they can say that, let's say we are having some examples like we are having some customer that are being available, uh, then let's say customer for your flight, and we are having some passengers. So customer and the passenger are both are usually for uh, just a minute, take a minute, I have some call from somebody, so kindly wait for some minutes.
Okay, sir.
So yeah, I'm back again. So firstly, we have to identify the redundant classes. So when we are having two classes that are being representing the same concept, so while identifying these redundant classes, we have to remove one of these classes. So a class that is more descriptive, so we'll consider this more descriptive classes. For an example, we are considering this airline example. So for this airline example, a customer may be class and the passenger might be in another class. So this may represent some redundancy over there. So what we can do is that this passenger is more descriptive than the customer, so we can remove this customer and we can go for this passenger classes. So this passenger is more descriptive, so we'll consider this again. When we are considering this again for ATM classes, again customer and the user are usually redundant, so we'll retain the customer because it is more descriptive than the user, so we'll remove this user available over here. So this is a redundant class in view of this customer classes available. So this is how we can map redundancy over there. Then we have to identify the irrelevant classes. So what are these irrelevant classes? Usually if a class has little or nothing to do with our problem, so we'll eliminate this. So this type of classes are usually considered as irrelevant classes. So while finding these irrelevant classes, we'll need some judgment because we have to find out the context of these classes. For an example, let's say again uh, uh, this cost. So this cost is usually outside of our uh, let's say scope or the context of our ATM system, because ATM has some related costs that are being available. But when we are drawing from the user perspective or withdrawing some money and depositing some money, so the cost of ATM doesn't matter for implementing a uh, information system for the ATM network. So this is considered being as an irrelevant classes. Then we are having some vague classes that are being available. So what are these vague classes? So our classes should be specific. So when we are going from some tentative classes, these classes may have some well-defined boundaries that are being available. So these classes does not have some more well-defined boundaries, or they are too broad when we are considering the scope of our example. So will this consider this record keeping provision? So this is just an vague because we are having some transaction classes that are being available. So while considering this record keeping and transaction, because each transaction contains records that are being available, so this is considered as the vague class. Then in other applications, say let's say we are having some system, because we are implementing overall system, so this system is again very too broad for our particular scope, so this might be considered as an vague class. Then we are having some security provisions, because we don't consider a security provision, because uh, let's say this might be an mm, physical activity, so we'll not consider all those things. And again the banking network, so banking network is again an out of scope for developing the banking system, so these are considered as an vague classes again for our system. Let's say we'll consider uh, the attributes for identifying this keeping the right classes. So again this attributes play some important role in identifying the right classes, because these attributes are uh, let's say uh, this attributes usually defines your state of your object. So we are having, let's say consider an object that contains some name and birth date and weights, so these are usually the attributes of your classes. So let's say for an example, this name, birth date and weight, when we are considering for an employee's office or an student in our classes, so we have to identify, or we have to reorganize all those things in our uh, ATM classes. Or let's say consider in this ATM example, again we are having some data that are being account data, receipt and cash and transaction data. So all these are usually nouns, but these are considered to be the attribute instead of finding the classes. As I mentioned uh, in the just 5 minutes or 10 minutes before that, where all these nouns doesn't reflect your classes, this might be an attribute. So this account data, receipt, cache may not be an uh, noun. So what we can say that these types of data are considered as an attribute for your particular class. So we have to remove all those entities in our data. Then again, in addition to that attributes, we are having some mm, operations, as well as, let's say, we are having some call, let's say a uh, a noun that is been available, this is call and so on. So this might be an operation for our classes. So in addition to attribute, we have to identify operations that are we have extracted as a noun right from your problem statement. So we can remove all those operations in our system. Then we have to identify different roles. For an example, because this your classes should reflect your intrinsic nature of your system. So when we are considering a role, let's say a owner, let's say customer, let's say driver, and so on. So this might be considered as a role of your roles, or the roles of your user. So this, they may not be our classes or domain classes of system, because let's say we'll consider an owner. So this owner would be a poor name for identifying a classes. So what we can say that we can use a proper class. Let's say instead of owner, we can say that the customer of your system. So this might be a good rule. So we have to identify uh, that what are the rules of our system. Again, we are having, let's say, consider this university example. So a persons are also the member of this university. So while considering a person, instead we can identify the different roles, like in, we are having employees, we can have some faculties, so, and students, and HODs and HOIs. So we'll consider this particular specific role instead of going for this poor name like in persons in our classes. Then then again, we are having some implementation constructs that are being available. So these are usually this implementation constructs that are being available, like in transaction log on some axis, and the software, then communication. So well when we are going for eliminating this construct from our analysis model, so these are usually the extraneous or the external entities of our system. So, and this might be needed while developing the system, but this will be required in the later phase for implementation part. So what we like to do is that we can remove all those things. So we are having some example, like we are having some CPUs, we can have some routines, we have some process, we are having algorithm, we can have some software, even we can have some signals or interrupts, all those data, or we can have some data structure like in linked list, trees, and so on. So this may not be considered while implementing our domain class diagram. So we can remove all those things. Then we have to identify the derived classes as well as, so we can remove all those derived classes right from your implementation part. So we can remove all those things in your uh, domain diagram. Now the next thing is that we have to prepare a data dictionary that has been available. So we have some isolated words, and these isolated words can have many interpretations. So when these words are being available, so we have to create the data dictionary for all those elements that we like to model in our diagram. So we have to write some paragraphs describing each uh, isolated word for in the sense of some particular classes. Let's say we have to describe the scope of class within your current problem, uh, as well as we can include some assumptions or some restrictions that are being associated with these words. So let's say this is a data dictionary that we have some word account. So this account is assumed to be in a single account at a bank against some transaction that are being available, and account may be various types such as checking and saving, and then customer can hold more than one account. So these are some data dictionary that are being available. So while considering an ATM example, we are having some data dictionary, so words, that's an account, then we are having some ATM. So we have to define some all those things. Let's say a station that allows customer to enter their transaction using cash cards and identification, then ATM interacts with the customer to do their transaction and sends information and so on. So these are different uh, words that are being available. So we have to write all those one paragraph or two paragraph of description for all those things. Next step is to uh, find mm, we have to find steps for constructing an this session. um, just a minute. So we have to write find out different association that are being available. So when we are going from finding the association, so these are some uh, examples that are being available. So in in addition to that, we are having some, let's say, what can I say, that in addition to identifying some noun phrases, we can have some verb phrases that are being available. So these are different verb phrases that are being available. So considering this verb phrases for our example, so in these verb phrases, we are having some banking networks that includes our cashier and station. So this might be in classes, then the consortium that share ATM. So we can identify all those things as an classes. Then we can have some implicit verb phrases like consortium consists of banks. So we can model some relationship in between your consortium and banks. So this consortium consists of banks. So we can identify that such as we are having some relationship like an aggregation. So consortium has consist of banks. So it has banks. Then bank holds accounts. So bank contains some accounts. So we can model all those relationships. Then consortium owns central computer. So we can say that a consortium owns a central computer. It means that this central computer might be in part of consortium, or we can say that this consortium owns a central computer. It means that as consortium is a full and central computer is in part. Again, it owns. We can say that this owns relationship reflects your composition relationship available. Then system provides record keeping. So we can have some association link available. Then customers have some cards. So these are different association relationship with consider customers have cash cards. So we can model some multiplicity navigability in addition to that. Then we can find out the knowledge that are being available for us. So these are different knowledge sets that are being available. First is in the cash card, accesses, accounts, and bank employees, and so on. So these are different identities that we can model all those things. Now, so this is a way we can identify our association. So when we are going from finding this association, so we can use this verb phrases, some implicit verb phrases, or the knowledge right from your problem domain. So when we are finding between association, we can have some structure relationship between two or more classes. So when uh, a reference from one class to another class, we can say that we are having some association. So let's say this is a banking network. This includes some station and ATM. So this there might be a reference like in consortium shares and ATM. So this is again one class refers to the another class. So this is how we can say that we are having some references right from one state to one class to another. So association are usually uh, correspond to your verbs, or usually are your verb phrases. So we are these are some verbs and these are implicit verb phrases. So we can have some example. Let's say let's say we can have some physical location. Let's say uh, this thing is next to, or this is an part of something, or it contains something, or we can have some directed actions. Let's say this drives to something. Let's say we are let's say on execution of this event, it drives to the another event. So we are having two relationship association in between them. Or we can have some communication. Let's say this system talks to the another system. Again, we can have some ownership relationship that has been available. Let's say this consortium owns your central computer. Or we can have some has a part relationship, or this is part of relationship. Or we can have some satisfaction level that is being available. So what are the satisfaction level? Let's say this works for, so this cashier station communicates. Or we can have some cash works for, or married to, or manages. And so this is how we can have some association that are being available for us. So this is how we can find out our association. So when we are going from this association, we'll find verb phrases or verbs, or verb phrases, and then we identify some a reference from right from one classes to another classes. So we have already modeled this classes while finding our noun. So we have identified the noun. Then what we're trying to do is that we'll like to model all these references. So when we are going to model these references, what we can do is that we'll find out the references right from one class to another class. So this is how we can find our references right from our classes. So in next class, I'll like to complete uh, I'll start with the keeping the right association and managing all those associations. So this will I include in my next class. Fine. Meanwhile, if you are having some problems,